Hi guys, and welcome to a review for the Meaoes Eagle and also for the NF Audio RA10. These are two IEMs that I decided to join together. Well, first of all, to save time because I've got a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be reviewed, and also because I think that the review that I'm going to do on both of them is short enough that it doesn't require for a big, extensive or more detailed presentation like I sometimes do. Anyway, straight into it. The Meaoes Eagle. This is the box that it brings. It's a four driver hybrid. It's got a dual custom BA according to the information that I was able to obtain, and then it's got a 7.5mm and an 8mm dynamic driver. The 7.5 is a titanium dome and it handles all of the mid frequencies, vocals, and so on and so forth. And the 8mm is a ceramic diaphragm and it handles the low frequency. The dual BAs obviously are handling the higher frequencies. What more can I say? That's basically it. In terms of the box, well, basically the box brings this inside, okay, and inside of this we have basically everything. Okay, we've got a very nice selection of tips, okay, some foams and some silicones, some more silicones, yet some more silicones. Then it brings it's a modular cable setup. Okay, that's one plug there, and that's the other plug. So 2.5, 4.4 and 3.5. I'll show you the cable now in a second. So that's it. Okay. Yes, I am. Okay. So nice enough cable. It's a decent cable. It could be a little bit more malleable, but it's fine. It doesn't. It's not offensive. It is modular, like I said. There we go. Okay, modular. It's got a nice enough accessories in terms of the terminations for the plugs and so on and so forth. 2-pin plug. IEM itself. See if I can focus on this. Come on, focus. There we go. IEM itself is nice. It's a little bit on the chunky side, and I guess that's the price to pay when you're having to put two dynamic drivers side by side. The BAs sit, the dual BA sits in the nozzle, which is kind of an older way of doing things, but hey, it is what it is. Weight, it's fine. It's not a heavy IEM. Fits nicely as well, so nothing to complain about there. Let me just kind of zoom this out a little bit. There we go. Fits nicely, isolates nicely. I'm using the green tips, as you can see, the stock ones, non-fatiguing in terms of wearing them and so on. It's nice. It's pretty decent. All right. Okay, so that's it there. What more can I tell you about the Eagle? Let me just check my notes here so I don't forget anything. As I mentioned, two DDs separate, one handling the specific parts of the frequency range, custom BA like I mentioned, the resin shell, modular cable. So in terms of the overall hardware package and everything, pretty decent. I mean, this is $145 roughly from Penon. On to what you want to know. So what does this sound, or what is it? I should mention that Meaoes, or I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm saying it the correct way, but I should mention that this is basically what was not a retake or remake, but this was actually the final name that Hi-Fi Boy, which is a company that has been around for a while, has been able to register. Hi-Fi Boy tried several times to actually register that name, but it wasn't successful in doing so. And so Meaoes, again, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing it or saying it properly, is the final name that is settled upon, but this is basically Hi-Fi Boy. Okay. So onto the sound. So what is the sound of the Meaoes like? And let me just also just mention that I've got here the ISN H30, which I'm going to be using it as a small comparison, and I've also got the XINHS Acros Erasmus over here, which is also again an IM, which is roughly around the same price, $130 to $140, just like the H30, and or just two options that I thought I'd use to compare this to the Meaoes and kind of position it. When you look at the graph of the Meaoes, it's a little bit it will, you will have some deja vu, in the sense that you look at the graph and it's not exactly the most appealing graph in the world. It's a definite V shape, mid-bass focus, slight roll off in the sub bass. The mids to upper mids are slightly recessed as the pin again is going on. It peaks at around 3.5K more or less. It's got a graphically, at least, let's put it that way, it's got a big pin again. We're talking a pin again of roughly 83 to 95, so 13 dBs. So as when you look at the graph, it doesn't really look appealing. You look at it and you say, okay. But once you hear it, it's not as bad as it graphically it seems. And the only real thing that you do see that kind of matches what the graph tells you is the fact that the mids are slightly recessed. There's a focus on the mid bass and on the high frequencies, very evident, especially in the female vocals and so on and so forth. But the rest, that middle section there is a little bit recessed, and that's the only part that I would really say is noticeable when you look at the graph and then you listen. By looking at the graph as well, you might get the feeling or the sensation that, this is going to be an absolute bass monster with loads of bass and so on and so forth. And no, there's no such thing. The bass that there is it's a good quality bass, but it's not as excessive as what the graph might apparently lead you to believe. Overall, although okay, we can say it's a V-type signature. What do I think the sound of the Eagle is about? It's a nice sound. It's easily listenable too. It's not my preference, not the one that I would personally choose. I much more rather like the sound of the H30 and the presentation of the ISN H30 or the presentation of the Erasmus. I prefer these two unquestionably, but as always, my likes are my likes and yours are yours. So I'm sure there will be people that will like the Eagle. I should also mention that the Eagle has got a relatively low impedance of 10 ohms, so you need a source that will handle that. And the one thing that I will say about the Eagle is that it seems to come alive in a nicer manner, in a more balanced and coherent manner when you really give it some volume. At low volumes, that recess that you have in the mids there is more perceived, more noticeable than when you start giving it a little bit more volume. It scales nicely, it scales decently, and it actually seems more at home and more more in its stride when you actually are giving it volume, as opposed to when it's lower volume and the bass and the ultimate highs, the extreme highs, are the ones that shine more as compared to the mids. Technicalities and so soundstage, imaging, detailed retrieval, timbre, tonality. What do I have to say about it? Soundstage a little bit closed in. I didn't particularly find the soundstage to be very, very wide. Decent enough depth. decent enough height. Imaging, again, not what I would consider the best quality of this IEM, especially when you compare it to these two, which do have soundstage and imaging in good order. Detailed retrieval, it's fine. It's not a bad. It's probably the better technicality that it has. Also, in terms of the timbre and the tonality, it will be very much dependent on certain instruments. So brass instruments come across, for the most part, pretty decently, but and so do like drums and so on. But then guitars, and this is probably due to the fact that the mids are recessed slightly. They're not very correct. They improve when you, like I say, give it a little bit more volume, and that's one of the characteristics about this IEM. It, like I've mentioned before, it seems to like being played loud, and when you play it loud, a lot of its drawbacks seem to be more dissipated, and it handles all of that in a much more balanced and coherent manner. How does it then compare with the two IEMs that I've chosen here? Well, I recently reviewed the H30 and the Erasmus. I've never reviewed it because it's my own IEM, but there are enough opinions out there about it. But what I can say about both of these two IEMs is, personally, myself, I would choose either one of these over the Eagle. They have a much more balanced presentation. They have a much more correct presentation. Any one of the technicalities, the ISN or the Erasmus does it in a better manner than the Eagle. So soundstage, imaging, detailed retrieval, timbre, tonality. I mean, the ISN, I was really surprised because you again, and I think maybe this is a characteristic of ISN products or Penang products, or I don't know, but graphically they don't seem the most appealing in the world. And then for some reason, when you listen to them, you're like, okay, but this is not what I just graphed, and they just sound really good. I mean, the ISN, fantastic, great sub bass, very nice detailed textured bass with great, nice rumble, fantastic mids. Maybe, and this is me, like really now being a little bit on the hard side, but a little bit of a recess in the mids, the transition again of the mids to the upper mids, but very slight recess. I mean, really nothing significant. The good thing about that recess, I would say, maybe is the fact that you then do not have, or I at least didn't pick up any instances of sibilance or harshness, something that the Eagle will have. The Eagle it doesn't become harsh when you crank the volume, or extremely sibilant in any, but it just if it's a bit of an extreme. If when low volume everything is just very subdued, very calm, when you crank the volume, yes, it comes alive, it shines, it feels more in its element. But at the same time, there are occasions with certain songs that it kind of you feel that it's almost on the edge. It's a little bit of a difficult thing to actually try and transmit. But I think that you will understand what I'm trying to say. On the H30, you don't have any of that. I mean, it plays really well. Instruments come across beautifully, in my opinion. Vocals, everything, great soundstage, really nice imaging. Definitely, of these two products, between the two of these two, no doubt I would take the H30 unquestionably, especially because they cost the same thing. And it's not that the H30 lags behind as well in terms of its accessories or anything. No, it brings a very nice cable as well. It's not a modular cable, but very nice cable. Actually more malleable, more along the lines of what I like. The IMs as well are exquisitely built and everything. So honestly, of these two, definitely this. The Erasmus, and like I said, I don't want to delve too much into a lot of it, but the Erasmus is another example of a very nicely done mutual signature, where the main premise and the main idea was to have this sound like a single driver playing everything, and not one picking up on the fact that it's two BAs and a single DD. The same situation, by the way, on the H30. The H30, the coherence, the way the drivers are matched, it's really, really good. Okay, fine. Ultimately, on both of them, you will pick up. There's a BA there, but it's been so well married. The marriage between the drivers has been so well done. Both of them are 2+1s that you don't pick up on it. While having said that, on the Eagle, yes, you do pick up on the fact that there's a BA there, so you do notice a little bit of that BA timbre, that BA tonality, typical tonality, and there are other drivers. You pick up on that distinction quite easily. It's not offensive, it's not anything that is bad per se, but you do pick up on it, and these two, that part has been done in a more refined manner. And like I was saying, the overall presentation of the Erasmus is all about being smooth, relaxed, unfatiguing. Between these two, I would say that perhaps there's a little bit more liveliness in the mid range, in the upper mids and treble in the H30 as compared to the Erasmus. But it's not enough to say that one is better than the other, because they both do what they are and what they've been tailored to do very well. So I guess that's basically it. So Meaoes OES, not a bad IEM, just overwhelmed or just overtaken by other products which are, in my opinion, superior and priced at the same value. And I'm not even selecting a whole bunch of other IEMs I could have selected. I'm just trying to maintain things to the bare minimum. Okay, that's this out of the way. Once I've talked about the IEMs, I'll then show you the graphs a little bit in detail so you can actually understand, just like I usually do. The other IEM is the NF Audio, the RA10, a micro IEM. And let me tell you something, what a surprise. What a surprise. I do like NF Audio, although some of their products of late have been, the NA3 is fine, and if I actually have to compare the NA3 to the NM2 Plus or to the NA2 Plus, I do prefer the NA3, to be honest. I do think that it's better value for money and overall offers a better sound, but it's positioned at a price where the competition is so harsh that it just gets drowned and forgotten, which is a pity, because it is a nice IEM. The RA10, I think the RA10, the only real problem, and I'm just opening up the box so you can have an idea, but a very nice presentation. Although simple, it's nice, it's classy, brings a nice selection of tips, as you can see. Okay, not a lot, but decent enough. Sorry, just trying to put this away. Yeah, there we go. Show you now the cable and the actual IEM. Brings a little small carrying pouch, not bad, it's fine. And then the cable was a nice surprise, although simple looking and thin. It's I don't know, it's got a nice quality to it, doesn't really tangle too much. I'm the one that has been winding it up this way and giving it that life, but it doesn't tangle. It's nice, it's got good accessories. And then the IEMs, these things are tiny. When I say tiny, they are small. and they fit in the most amazing manner. When you first look at them and you see this weird shell, you kind of think, this is going to be a bit of a nightmare. And once you put them in, beautiful. In my case in particular, I mean, they go flush inside of my ear. They just fit that area there, that entrance of the ear canal beautifully. I don't even feel like I've got anything there. They were made for that, perfect. So in terms of its fit, beautiful. They come in a few color options as well. That's basically it. Very light, decent enough construction, fit beautifully, isolate beautifully. I'm using the stock tips, as you can see, the large size actually, because it's the one that just holds the IM in place perfectly. That's basically it. What have I got here to compare it with regards to how it sounds and so on and so forth? Let me just do one thing here, which is just put some notes here in front of me so that I don't make a mess of what I'm saying. 1 second, my apologies. Okay. And that one there as well. All right. So I thought that, and this, what I'm about to say is probably the only reason that will maybe be a hindrance to the RA10 having more success, which is the price. It costs around $40, which, again, when you consider what you can get in the sub $50 market, it makes it a hard choice to be done. I mean, you have things like the Kiwi Ears Cadenza for $35, amazing. You have the Tin Hi-Fi, the C3, the latest one, for $49, amazing. You have the Tangzhou 1 year for $20, amazing. And the list goes on. There's quite a lot of really, really nice IEMs under $50. So to the justification for $40 odd for this IEM it's a hard one to do. However, having said what I've just said, what this offers in terms of its fit and so ergonomics and so on, I think is something which not any of the other IMs that I've mentioned offer that same level of comfort. They don't. They are comfortable. They are decently sized and they fit nicely and so forth. But the NF Audio just, in my opinion, I think just edges them out nice. Just enough. I'm not saying by that it justifies the difference in price. I'm just saying that in that aspect, it beats the available competition. And then it offers the one thing that was straight away when I heard it the first time, I said, wow, this sounds like an Etymotic, like an ER2XR. And lo and behold, when I actually graphed it, it is basically an ER2XR. I know this is a very bold statement, and a statement that will maybe, I don't know, I'm not going to say cringe, but will probably make some of the Etymotic fans kind of say, how can this be possible? But in a nutshell, if you are a fan of that kind of style of tuning, or that diffuse fields kind of tuning of the Etymotics, but you don't like having your ear canals violated, let's put it that way, then you have in the RA10 the perfect alternative. It gives you, honestly, basically the same sound. I would say they are 99% identical in terms of sound, in terms of bass, in terms of mid, in terms of the way the vocals are presented, in terms of everything, with one advantage in terms of sound for the RA10, which is it's got a little bit more energy in that area there between 5 and 9K. And that energy is enough to just make it a little bit more clean, a little bit more detailed, and it's noticeable. You pick up on it very nicely. I didn't compare it to the SE. I could have done, but I didn't compare. I'll be honest. because it's just got that extra amount of bass that is very noticeable as compared to the SC. So I just quickly listened to it and I just left it. I just maintained all the comparison with the XR. What can I say about the sound in a bit more detail? Well, it's basically ruler flat by 200 hertz, so there's no bleed into the mids. I mean, sub bass focused. It's got that style of let's say the 7 hertz zero. That style of bass. It won't be perhaps the best for those of you that are bass heads and want loads of bass, but the quality of the bass is really nice. And considering that this is so small and it's using a 6mm driver, the amount of quality bass that it's able to put out actually surprised me very much. I was not expecting it. I really was not expecting it. I have to say that my approach to this IM was one of, okay, let's see. The way that then the pinna gain is done, peaking at it peaks at, actually I can tell you, it peaks at around 2.7k. Nice, it then drops off nicely, picks up again at around 6 for that 8k peak, and then comes down and a little bit more extension. That whole area, so that whole part of the mids from 1k upwards, upper mids, presence, that whole area has been very nicely done. So there's no sibilance, there's no harshness, there's no aggressiveness, I didn't find the highs, the treble to be unpolished. No, everything is very nicely presented. I mean, it's really a very sweet sounding IM. Honestly, a very nice surprise. And its biggest issue really is its price. That's the reality. As compared to like I said, compared to the Etimotic, I mean, this is fine. You can pick it up sometimes at $70 odd, but if this is the type of sound you like and you don't want to be like I said earlier, violated, then period, this is the option. So I'm not even going to bother to get into too much details with regards to the Etimotic. The other two IEMs that I have here are an IEM that I very much like myself, and I think also unfortunately for different reasons, there hasn't been getting too much attention, which is the Tanstrom Zero. Okay, fair enough. This is $15. It's a fixed cable, not a detachable. It's a bullet style and so on. But it's got a sound which, when you actually listen to this and you listen to the RA10, there's some commonality there. There's some similarity there. And they both surprise for the same reasons, which are you don't expect it to be this good. You don't expect, when you look at the graph of the Zero and it's flat basically in the bass, and you kind of okay, all right, and then when you listen to it you say, oh wow, this has actually got a nice bass. It's very much an IM that's how can I say this, those of you that, for example, know the MIM Dark Magician, and by no way am I comparing this to an MIM Dark Magician, please, I'm just trying to make a point here. You know that when you look at it and graphically, it's got, you say, okay, the bass here, all right. And then when you listen to it, it's got a really nice bass, and the more you crank it, the more that bass comes alive. And it's the same thing with the Zero. The more you crank it, the more that bass comes alive, and it shines, and it handles it like a boss. Compared to its sibling, the Tanya, I personally think that this is a superior IEM. Okay, as compared to the RA10. The RA10 comes out ultimately by being more polished, and especially by having better high frequency reproduction. I mean, again, when you see the graph, you might not perceive it in that manner, but when you actually do hear it, you do see that the Zero is a little bit more warmer, and it kind of makes the presentation a little bit darker. Ultimately, I think that's mainly because the mid bass is more pronounced in the Zero than it is on the RA10, and it then reflects itself in how the the mids and upper mids are come across, because in terms of how the pinna gain is done and everything, they are very similar. The real difference that you get there is that while after that peak of the pinna gain, which happens at about the same frequency in both of these IMs, you then have the RA10 starting to drop off straight away. The 0 kind of plateaus until about 8, and then it drops off, and then it has the kind of same extension. But anyway, this I thought was an IM that kind of reminded me of having a similar style of sound, and I thought it would make sense to compare. And its biggest plus point is the fact that it's got such a low price. I mean, it's one of those IMs that you just can't go wrong. You just can't, and it plays really well. And the other one is the the E2K from Final Audio. Again, in terms of the mid bass, yes, way more mid bass focused than the RA10, and that mid bass focus obviously manifests itself very in a very prominent manner, because it makes the whole IM sound significantly darker. Not that it doesn't have a decent energy, it does, but having such a hefty mid bass presentation does take its toll, and it makes it more closed in, darker, and not as detailed or as easy sounding. Let's put it that way. And it's an IM that costs basically the same price as the RA10. Also, bullet style doesn't really have the same kind of quality of fit as the RA10, and I'm gonna give it to the RA10 because the price of these two is very similar. So I'm going to give this one to the RA10. I know that again is a bold statement, and the final audio guys will probably want to kill me next, but that's what I think. That's my opinion, and I respect everybody. So the same should be done this way. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. I definitely, of the two IMs that I just reviewed, this and the Eagle, I definitely recommend you make an effort to give this a listen, because this is a nice IM. This is truly a nice IM. The only problem that the RA10 has really is the price, which unfortunately is a little bit. I mean, if there is any way that this IM could be sold around just under the $30 market, the price bracket, sorry, that would make it a serious threat to the other IMs, because it has a different tuning, but it's a different tuning that has been very nicely done. And then what it offers in terms of its fit and so on is quite unique and very nice. I mean, honestly, I was really not expecting it to be this nice in terms of the fit, when especially when you look at the shape of it. It's got this really crazy shape. I mean, look at it. Really crazy shape. Okay. Anyway, guys, that's basically the review for these two. I'll show you the graphs now next, and I'll see you in the next one. All right. Hi guys, so let me just quickly run you through the graphs. Okay, so the first graph I'm going to show you is the graph of the Meaoes Eagle. Okay, and as I mentioned in the review earlier, you look at this graph and it's not exactly the most appealing graph in the world. It looks like a very prominent V. When what happens when you listen to it, it doesn't come across as being as prominent as it is. I mean, we're talking, like I said, from the lowest point here, 82, so 92, so 10 dBs in terms of the bass. So I'm guessing acceptable. But in terms of the higher frequencies, we are going up. Peak of the pinna is 13 dBs. Sorry, let me just confirm. Yeah, 13 dBs. So this little recession here is what I think spoils things a little bit, because the rest is not it's not bad. Honestly, it's not bad. That's the graph of the Eagle compared to its well, I'm not going to say it's sibling or brother or anything, because they are different companies, but they're both under the Penon umbrella. but the ISN audio, the H30, let me just align this. The H30, looking at it this way, you would say, oh wow, the Eagle's got monstrous bass, and the bass of the H30 is way more bodied, way more full, way more complete, much more detailed, much more textured. It's a completely different IM. I mean, keep in mind that everything, and this is a situation as well that happens already in the H50, everything stays within a window of 82 to roughly a window of 7-8 dBs. The fact that it stays within such a tight window, I think, is one of the reasons why both the H30 and the H50 sound the way they do. Okay, fine. So you have this little recess here at 2K. It's really not noticeable. There's plenty detail, no sibilance, no nothing, honestly. And then the extension that it has past 10K is more than enough to give it and to convey that sense of air and so on. So ISN H30, a much superior IM to the Eagle. And then the other one that I mentioned during the review was the Erasmus. Let me just quickly show it to you. That's the Erasmus there. And the Erasmus, as you can see by the graph, is very similar to the H30, and that's the reason why I said that they sound similar. The bass is very similar. The H30 perhaps just a little bit more energetic in this area of the presence, but not enough to say that, oh no, it's and a little bit more as well in the brilliance area, but not enough to really say that it's oh no, it's much better, or it's better than the Erasmus, and it shows itself. No, overall, both of these IMs have got a coherence and a driver matching, which has been, in my opinion, done exquisitely for the price range that they're in. I mean, $130 to $140. It's not normal to see this execution being done in this manner. Okay, so that's that. As for the NF audio, and this was the real, let me just get this out of the way, this out of the way, this out of the way. Oops, I just erased one graph. I'm going to have to just go and fetch it again slowly. Sorry guys, I really apologize. There we go. Alright, so NF audio. This is the graph of the NF audio. Sorry, there we go. That's the graph of the NF audio. Nice, smooth, as you can see, nice and smooth in the sub bass. I mean, it's almost, by 200 hertz, it's flat. I mean, so there's no bleeding to the mids, nothing. Really quality bass presentation. Pinna gain peaking at around 2.5. It's got a large pinna gain for all intents and purposes. We're talking 12 dBs, yeah, 12 dBs. But it's not, again, for some reason, it's not as noticeable as you would think. And when you actually take the etymotic and you put the etymotic on there, you can see that it's almost the same. Look at that. The etymotic up to 5 and the RA10 are exactly the same. Exactly. And then the difference is here. And this difference that occurs here, you notice it in the RA10 as being just that little extra amount of detail, that little extra amount of sparkle, of twinklies and sparklies, like I like calling it. And that translates to just a little bit extra of detailed retrieval, I would say, from the part of the RA10. The reason why you see the peak here being further on the etymotic as compared to the peak on the RA10 is because of the insertion depth, and the tip I was using on the etymotic allowed me to insert it deeper into the coupler, kind of simulating what would happen as well in your ears, and by inserting it deeper, you're pushing that peak further up in the frequency range, so not as noticeable. Sound wise, and I know this is a really bold statement, like I'm saying, they sound, I mean, okay, I'm not going to say 100%, I'm going to say they sound 98% the same. And when you factor in that one is twice the price of the other, even when you do get it on discount, I honestly think that for those of you that are looking and that like this type of diffuse style tuning, and that like the etymotic style of sound and so on, this is a very valid and solid alternative. Honestly, with all respect to all of the etymotic fans and everything, this is a very valid alternative. And out of all of the products that NF Audio has offered lately, definitely the most interesting one, I would say, as compared to the oxygen. Sorry guys, the Tantrum Zero. Let me just. Oh my God, it's pouring here. We've been having some really bad weather here in Portugal. Really, some big floods in Lisbon and everything. As compared to the Zero, this is what I mentioned in the review, that you got that little bit more mid-bass energy and low-mid energy there, which ultimately kind of darkens a little bit up the sound of the Zero. And then you got as well a little bit more energy here in this area between 3 and 6K. This is not as noticeable as you would expect because of this. So this extra that it has here manifests itself by darkening up this much, and overall the presentation of the Zero is a little bit more darker. It's not as detailed, not as light. Both of them sound amazing in my opinion, and the Zero is honestly a really good IEM that I think just hasn't gotten the deserved attention. And I'm not going to say one is a choice over the other. They're just different. That's it. They're just different. And that's it, guys. Honestly, that's basically it. Just the final E2K, just for the sake of showing it. Why not? The final E2K is this one. Let me just quickly align it. There we go. And the final E2K, as you can see, the biggest problem is this huge mid-bass bump that it has, which I'm guessing will be to the satisfaction and the pleasure of some. Personally, I think it's just excessive, and by being as excessive as it is, it kind of darkens up the rest of the presentation, because there's decent enough energy there, as you can actually see. Kind of similarly, follows the curve of the idea of the curve of the RA10, but this mid bass is just too much in my opinion. So that's it, guys. NF Audio RA10, in my opinion, definitely something that you should have a listen to, and its biggest obstacle is just really the price. That's it. All right. As always, like and subscribe. Any questions you guys might have, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer. Okay? You take care then. Bye-bye.